Robinson, senior writer for Heavy, the Heavy.
Yes,
Tell them a bit about yourself, my man.
I'm boring, but if you want to pay attention, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, senior writer, Heavy.com, host of the Scoop B Radio podcast. Also have a digital show called Heavy Live with Scoop B. We've had anybody from the porn star Lisa Ann to gospel recording artist Kirk Franklin to some Hall of Famer guy named Isaiah Thomas to just a myriad
That's
of
my
other
daddy.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, man, I've been around this game for a minute, and I love having good conversations about everything. So I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, no, thank you for participating again. Welcome to the world of Haps. This is my platform that I love and I'm really glad to nurture. But we're just going to spitball some first questions. So, Nate Robinson.
Yes.
How's he doing?
I guess he's all right. He was supposed to come on my show last week, and he didn't. He had some things going on. But I guess he's all right. I reached out to him Sunday. Have not heard back from him, so I guess he's okay.
It's a really strange time because I feel like, all of us who know Nate, love Nate, feel for Nate. It's a weird time to see your boy get knocked out. I mean, it just is. And I don't want to, put it like that, but he got knocked out. Do you think that Jake Paul actually has a future in boxing?
I think he has a future in celebrity boxing matches. I think.
So you think this Thriller thing is for real? Like is George Foreman coming out of retirement? I mean, we just saw the Iron Sheik challenged Hulk Hogan to a match. Honestly, I would go and see Hollywood do the.
I think
I would see that.
Josh, I think that we're in a day and time and a space where nostalgia is king. Like before the fight last week, The Undertaker retiring after 30 years was a thing.
Absolutely, The Undertaker retiring was a major thing. I mean, The Undertaker for 30 years was a big part of my life, like a major part of my life. Yeah. And definitely when you talk about nostalgia, I mean, look at the most popular show on Netflix right now, The Crown. I mean, everybody has been so obsessed with the royal family forever. Forever.
I think nostalgia is the thing, even from the perspective of all these verses. Like it's like we're putting to bed all the stuff that we grew up on to introduce new nostalgia and new stuff. So to me, doing it during COVID is where it all makes sense. Just like I think Nate Robinson getting knocked out by Jake Paul is talked about more because we're tired of talking about Donald Trump. And we're tired of talking about the election, which happened almost a month ago, a couple days short of a month ago. But I also think.
But are we tired of talking about? But is that wrong that we're tired of talking about COVID as we see cases are rising?
No, because that's the current news cycle, and I think COVID has more to do with people's lives being lost and people that lost it versus I think the presidential election and the current person in office is more of an entertainment. It's unprecedented the way he hasn't conceded in the minds of people, and also the fact that we've been hearing him for 4 years.
Hearing him for 4 years, reading him for 4 years, there is a very good chance that Twitter actually might ban him from their platform just for the misinformation that he puts out.
Is that what you think or what you've heard?
That's what I've heard. And that's within their guidelines of use. If he was not the president, more of his posts would have been flagged, and he would now be a banned user for excessively a repeat offender, so to speak, a repeat offender. But so my question for you, being a man of the news for a while, is how close to that, how close are we walking to free speech and faux speech? Because when you're promoting lies, but you're allowed to do that.
I think that free speech is never free. The consequences that come with it is what makes it not free. I think that the reason why President Trump, whichever way you voted, the reason why President Trump still has a platform is, one, because he's currently, he's a lame duck. He's still the president of the United States. One, two, there are people who still do listen to him, believe what he has to say. But I'll add this. The same way that many people respect and revere him as the president of the United States, in the same vein, there are many young people, minorities, LGBTQ plus, who respect and revere former President Obama in the same vein, and hold what he says, those truths, to be self-evident, to take a play off of a speech. So it's like, in the same way that I really do feel like Obama is the reverse of Trump as it relates to following and what people believe. Who am I to judge? I know who I voted for, but that's what following and that's what belief gives you the freedom to do. And so I believe that there's a platform for everybody. Listen, there are people who like Michael Jordan. There are people who like Isaiah Thomas. There are people who don't like Isaiah Thomas because of their belief of what happened with Michael Jordan. There are people who don't like who don't like LeBron because they think that he is trying to be Michael. There are people who like Michael and they like LeBron. Like, everybody has the right to choose what they want. I think what gets murky is the fact that we are in a pandemic. Like, I think that the pandemic changed the game on a lot of fronts, particularly for President Trump, kind of in the same way that I think Hurricane Sandy changed the outcome of the presidential election with Romney and President Obama. If you look back at the presidential competition between those two guys in 2012, it seemed like it was a little bit neck and neck. But what happened was, if you were on the East Coast, particularly New York or New Jersey, you look at Sandy and people were home, and then you look at the video comment where Romney was at a private event and that 47% comment was said. That changed the minds and perception of a lot of people when that was said.
But
because people were home.
Come back at that, and you now have President Trump, who has appealed to, I'm your guy. I'm relatable to you. Even his son now, Don Jr., who I do believe will eventually be a politician. Definitely probably get elected. Probably when he moves to Florida, become governor, whatever it is.
Right.
You know, this country is so divided in its politics.
But it always has been.
Excuse me?
But it always has been divided. I know that people use that term a lot, that this country is divided. It's not that that's nothing new. I think social media really reveals it. No different than police brutality and black men being shot and killed. Some people are so shocked. It's always happened. It's just that social media and video footage has it right in your face. This country has always been divided. That's nothing new. Look at the way that the election was voted. Yeah,
it was. But the great thing was, I mean, it was the highest turnout in any presidential election in history. And I think moving in that direction of great turnout is a positive. Just like I feel Russell Westbrook going to the Washington Wizards is definitely a positive. not to flip it on you, but how do you feel about the trade that just went down? Russell, John Wall coming off basically 2 years of being hurt, now goes down to play with Harden. Definitely a better three-point shooter than Russell. But hey, Russell Westbrook can go out there and get buckets. Bradley Beal can go out there and get buckets.
And he's also playing for his former head coach in Scott Brooks in Washington.
I feel you. And shouts to Scott Brooks. I really don't feel that he does shit, but shouts to Scott Brooks.
Right.
Scoop, I keep it 100. I keep it 100. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but my sports background, you know, I don't speak for my father. I don't speak for anybody else. I speak for me, and I speak for what I see on the court. Sure. On the court, the Washington Wizards have not delivered since Gilbert Arenas. It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. And, you know, Ernie Grunfeld took the hit for that, rightly or wrongly. But, hey, Scott Brooks, that seat's getting hot. And I feel, you know, even in this age, you know, a lot of brothers and a lot of minorities are not getting opportunities at these jobs. As you look at it, especially when you're talking about football, and I'm just switching sports all over you. Adam Gase, New York Jets, still coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Lynn, San Diego Chargers, he's now on the hot seat. That don't make no sense. The man was 12-4. 12-4, was a coach of the year candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Team goes into rebuilding, new building. Now they want to, you know, bring in a new coach.
Yeah. I think that with football, it's a lot like basketball as it relates to positions. I think the difference is there are more jobs in the NFL than there are in the NBA. And I think that ultimately the similarities between both are that it is a relationship business.
You are one of the few Black writers on the beat, telling the truth for a while. How are people able to amplify their voice, especially coaches, assistant coaches, general managers, you know, the people who work in the film room? How are they able to amplify their voice more to get their clout up, so to speak, to get these jobs?
A lot of it has to do with representation and who's your agent. A lot of it has to do with who you latch on to. I mean, I use this as an example. I look at Spoelstra in Miami as a prime example. You know, he was able to go into a situation. He's of Asian descent. He's Filipino. He, you know, latched on to, you know, Pat Riley, a legend. And he was able to do what he needed to do. Everybody's not going to connect themselves with a Pat Riley. Everybody doesn't have the access to Pat Riley. You know, then you have some people who, you know, who latch on to the Doc Riverses or the John Lucases and some of those guys, you know. But I think ultimately it comes down to just relationship. I wish I could be more transparent in that. It is a lot of favoritism. It is a lot of, you know, who you know and who knows you. And I think ultimately it comes down to consistency. Like,
does the media have as much sway in sports as they do in politics?
I think that they always did in politics. Like sports. I think that I think the era of Obama and Trump made them realize their power. Like when you look at President Trump and his platform, you've never seen anything like it, but you've never seen anything like that in the Obama era either. And I feel like with that being said, everybody's trying to go viral for a question. But I also think that in politics, just like sports, and I use basketball specifically as an example, every public figure has their guy. You know, like Michael Jordan had Ahmad Rashad.
Kobe had Jim Gray.
Yeah, like every person had their guy. I say that to say, yeah, I think journalists realize their power more in politics. But then I look at politics and I think, well, there's Walter Cronkite, there's Barbara Walters, there's
Brian Williams.
What'd you say?
Brian Williams, that's my GOAT.
Yeah. So, you know, like I think ultimately you see that people have their influence and their relationships, but I think in particularly in politics, during the last two administrations, you're seeing more of that sports-like flavor in politics.
Definitely. But also I believe that you are seeing, how do we shift the narrative in politics? You're now seeing with Obama, you had birtherism. Now you have QAnon. Now you have people attacking, even saying the election obviously is fraudulent. How are we able to literally funnel the noise out of the political spectrum? Our Facebook, our Twitter is an app, even like we're on right now, Haps. Do we have a duty to flag, as I just said earlier, that Twitter has even said it's very, very likely and possible that Donald Trump could get banned and or put on timeout, suspended, the account suspended for a number of days for putting out false information. Who's to say what is true? What is truth?
Well, I think that it comes down to, I feel like 2020 is such a cleansing, purging year because a lot of people have been able to sit down and think and recalibrate just a lot. I think the issue is that we have too many damn apps. I think having apps, cool. This is my first time using apps. Having Twitter, cool. Instagram, cool. Facebook, cool. Clubhouse, cool. I joined Clubhouse a month ago. I just sit and listen. I don't really have much to say. I'm apped out. However, I think that.
But the younger generation, I mean, TikTok.
I never jumped on that wave. I haven't.
I haven't jumped on it either. I think it's very controlling. You know, I even asked a young friend of mine. He was like, you know, I love doing the dances and whatnot. And I said, but who's really doing the dances? Who's telling you to do those dances? Well, I am. I'm like, no, that app is now manipulating you to. You see what I'm saying? I just feel that the way technology is going, we are being way more controlled by AI than ever before.
Yeah, I can see where you come from. I think ultimately, though, I think it comes down to, I've always used apps like this. Like when I was in college and when Facebook hit, that was the first thing, or the first program or platform. I won't say apps. The first program was, I remember when it was thefacebook.com. And you had to be in college in order to use it. And I feel as though
yeah, I was in high school trying to get on.
Yeah, and I feel like back then I was thinking about two things, maybe three. One, how can I use an app which would save me time to have to go to different people's dorms to talk to girls? One. Two, how can I reconnect to some people from my past that I lost touch with? And then three, how can I make money off of it? I accomplished all three.
Well, claps to you, because I'm still working on trying to, I'm trying to collect some checks. I got a lot of people late paying me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you got health care. I got Obamacare.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah. I think ultimately, when I look at, when I look at these just social media at large, I think so you asked me multiple questions within one, but there was things that you said within that question that I want to highlight. So I answered the question about the apps. I think that just apps over time, they've just elapsed and expanded. Like with Clubhouse, I met somebody who was giving me a lot of tea about what was going on in Houston with the Rockets and Russell Westbrook and all that. I met somebody on Clubhouse that was in that bracket that knew what was going on. So that was a plus. But then I look at like Twitter. I mean, I've been able to break news on Twitter. Instagram, I've been able to show my lifestyle. But I think as it relates to the world and the consumption of media, I think in the era of everybody celebrating women, Kamala Harris as a Black woman, I think is in an interesting space that reminds me of 11 years ago when President Obama entered the White House as the first African-American male president in the White House. And I think that is interesting, now with Kamala Harris being the first black woman or woman period to enter one of those top two positions as the vice president of the United States. And I think how women are featured in media moving forward is going to be very interesting, because I think when Obama came in, the identity of Black males and hip hop were both looked at through a different lens.
They converged. They definitely
merged. That was that official merging. Yes. Yes.
They definitely converged, because you definitely saw many artists. I mean, Jay-Z kind of led the pack, suited and booted. You definitely saw many artists. I was talking to Ja Rule earlier on a Zoom call, and he actually had said, I regret a lot of the music that I put out because it led to a lot of people portraying me or portraying a lifestyle that I truly didn't represent. And I think that in music now, you're starting to see musicology come back. You're starting to see instrumentation come back. I'm really hoping that a lot of the younger rappers keep looking towards the old heads, respect the old heads, but learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, I think old Kanye West with College Dropout made the nerd and the backpacker cool.
Yeah.
In the same way that Steve Urkel now would be cool versus back then he was the nerd. Social norms were off, but the glasses, the style of dress, the fashion, that ain't nothing but Russell Westbrook off the court.
You're exactly right. Exactly right when you definitely make that comparison to off the court and on the court. Speaking of Russell's running mate, is James Harden going to get traded?
I think the situation and the way it looks right now, to me, it reminds me a lot of Anthony Davis when the Lakers and the Pelicans did not strike a deal back in 2018 and 2019. And the Pelicans wanted everything but the kitchen sink. And unfortunately, Dell Demps lost his job in the front office of the Pelicans. The thing that saved the Lakers and got the Lakers Anthony Davis was the fact that they had a first-round pick in 2019, and ultimately they shipped it to the Pelicans, and they were able to keep Kyle Kuzma, and Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball walked. From what I know, the Nets were banking on shipping Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Who I think is a great pick, like a great player.
He's a great player, but you're trying to move. The Nets are trying to get Harden without moving Kyrie Irving. And I don't think Houston is going for it.
Oh, well, Kyrie definitely has been one of my inspirations during this time of COVID and civil unrest, social justice. You actually posted a note from him today, which I thought was very powerful. Could you summarize that for us before we end tonight?
Yeah, so, today was media day, or was a media availability, and Kyrie has yet to speak. Sorry about that. My phone was ringing. He did not speak with the media, and ultimately, when it came down to it, he gave a statement just about the season, and follow me on Instagram at @scoop_B. I posted the statement that he and his team released, which basically made mention of the fact that he's done a lot during COVID, and that he's not really focused on speaking media wise, but here's where I am with all of this, and that's basically where he left it, and here we are. So I think as it relates to Kyrie and everything else that's going on in the world, I think he's been thoughtful, he's been mindful, but he doesn't really want to speak. And I think anything that he says is going to be under the microscope because he is perceived as this bombastic figure to people, And so I think, he in the age of aggregation, I think ultimately he gave his point of view, and people can run with it however they want.
I completely hear you. And I want to thank you for taking the time on this Friday night to talk sports, culture, politics. We hit a little bit of it all. I definitely want to have you back on soon. Please stay blessed over the weekend and stay safe. Wear a mask and
all of that.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Thomas, I appreciate you. I know we've been trying to get this done for some time. I'm glad we finally got it done, and thank you for the opportunity to be myself.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right.